Namaste. Welcome back, beautiful souls, to my Decan Walk 2026. And this Decan is one that I have a particular fondness for. I love to talk about the Four of Wands and its correspondences. This is a Decan where the Empress and the Emperor find a truly beautiful connection. And depending on how far you are diving into your Golden Dawn correspondences through your Decan Walk, you will start to understand that the number of intersections here begins to multiply rapidly. I have a number of different decks on the table today, and of course I will share those with you as I pick them up and discuss them. And for those of you that are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Sadhana. It's lovely to have you here. And so here in this third decan of Aries, we continue to have the Emperor representing Aries, Aries ruled by Mars, the Tower. The Tower continues to be an underlying current of this decan. In the third decan of Aries, we move to the Four of Wands. And this beautiful card is from the Slow Tarot. And here you see an abundance of growth. Beans, I believe, growing up the poles that have been joined together to create this structure as part of the garden. In the background of this picture, you can see a parade that is going by. And really interestingly, there is a reflection of the parade in the clouds. Goldy yellow color of the Emperor and the richness of the Empress in the earthiness below. And there's something about this card that speaks deeply to me, in that the Emperor provides the structure upon which the Empress can flourish. And so here in the Four of Wands, we're working with two strong masculine connections. We're working with both the energy of the Emperor and the energy of Four, which is the Sephira of Chesed. This is the Sephira of Jupiter, the Sephira of manifestation, expansion, and greatness. And so here in the Four, we're working with two very strong, powerful, masculine energies, both the energy of the Emperor as well as the energy of Jupiter and all that the Sephira of Chesed represents. So this is the Sephira of manifestation. And you can see here in Journey of the Sacred Bee that we have a circle, and this represents many things. I'm going to talk about that in terms of what we see here in Tabula Mundi as well. But the circle could represent the wheel itself. The wheel is the card that represents Jupiter in terms of Golden Dawn correspondences. And you can see in the background here, we have this beautiful connection between the solar energy, the strength of the masculine energy, the power of the masculine energy, and the green, which is the color for Venus. The bee is a symbol of the divine feminine. And this is a symbol that I think is important to put a little bit of time into studying. Here in Tabula Mundi, you can see that there is a heart, an open heart, that is full of an active hive, ripe honeycomb, so to speak. And in the foreground is an enlargement of this open-heartedness. The Empress here also takes on the shape of the glyph of salt. And so in Tabula Mundi, one of the things that M.M. Moline does is she brings in a lot of the Crowley-Thoth correspondences. And so here we have the Emperor in the shape of the glyph of sulfur, and the Empress is in the shape of salt. But you can see that the Emperor, I just love the way that he sits in contemplation, respect, admiration of the hive, the wonder of the hive, and she as Venus is the hive. If you look at the Four of Wands in the Tabula Mundi, you'll see that we have the compass and the square, symbols of the divine masculine and feminine, the square being the symbol of the divine masculine, and the compass, which draws a circle, a symbol of the divine feminine. It's really very clever. And you can see the bee atop here as the ruler of this particular decan. Moon and sun, bee and eagle. Understanding the keywords in Golden Dawn inspired decks, I think, is important as well. And in Journey of the Sacred Bee, Kelly Burton labels it perfected work. It's called completion in Tabula Mundi. And this is the result of the union of the divine masculine and the divine feminine coming together in this particular decan. This is one of the first decks that I fell in love with, the Lily White Tarot by Celia Melville. And in this card, you can see the beauty of the divine feminine decorating, swirling around the structure of the divine masculine, the sheer joy and happiness of the two foxes in the center, and the web of connection among everything. And lovely how they create the shape of the yin-yang symbol, the symbol that represents that, we can't separate the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Naturally, one may be atop and one may be on the bottom, or one might feel a little stronger at any given time. But the symbol is one to really take time to sit with in the tarot. This is the Marielle Tarot, the first edition. And here you see another yin-yang symbol of the divine masculine being held by the divine feminine, or is the divine masculine holding the divine feminine. This is a truly beautiful interlocking connection of the Empress and the Emperor in the Lover's card. I love it when a deck takes the energy of these two cards and you really feel its union, or the exploration of its union in the Lover's card. I think the Slow Tarot does a good job of this as well, though the hair color changes a little bit. You can see here the Emperor and the Empress and the way that they come together in the Lover's card. And we will get to that when we get to Gemini, of course. If you are interested in exploring the sacred energy of the bee and Venus, the goddess, sacred geometry in general, I would strongly recommend Kelly Burton's Journey of the Sacred Bee. In this deck, you will have all of the Golden Dawn correspondences. You can study the Hebrew letters. Her keywords are different than you will find on the Crowley Thoth Tarot, and yet her correspondences may be a little easier to work with, and I'll speak to that in just a second. This is the Three of Wands virtue. You can see that she includes the symbology of the ram. We can see the sun, which was the decan ruler of the second decan. And then in the Four of Wands, I've already mentioned this card. She so beautifully picks up this sacred connection of divine masculine and feminine. Another deck that has really helped me expand my understanding of the divine masculine and feminine is Linda Hill's Red Seeds Tarot. And in this deck, you will come to a deeper understanding of symbols such as the pomegranate, the bees, the hive itself, divine masculine and feminine. And of course, this is a journey of the Mistai and a sacred ritual. But there's so much more going on in this deck. And if you have an interest in this mythology, it's a really powerful one to work with. And I mention that because the bee and the beehive as the structure in which the bees do their sacred work is just symbolically rich with information, a wonderful place to dive into. A fascinating connection here in terms of the tree of life is the Empress, who is the card representing Venus, is the path connecting the twos and the threes, the kings and the queens, Hokmah and Binah. And the Tower card, which is a card representing Mars and the ruler of Aries, is the path connecting the sevens and the eights. The Tower path is down here. And so we have this reflection of these two horizontal paths in this particular decan. I don't know if you can understand its magnitude, and I think this is one of the reasons I keep coming back to reflect and study on this decan over and over, because as you can see in this cute little card here, the number of intersections, connections among these cards is truly infinite. And you really get a sense of that here. And very briefly, Kelly Burton does share some information about all of the sacred geometry in the back of the guidebook for a journey of the sacred bee and the golden ratio. You'll also find this in the book of Sechet, which is the extra guidebook for Melmoline's Tabula Mundi deck. In summary, we have Aries, represented by the Emperor card. This particular decan is the Four of Wands, ruled by Venus, represented by the Empress card. And in all third decans of every sign, we switch court cards. And this is a bit of a contentious issue, whether we are working with kings or knights or princes in this particular decan. If you are following the Crowley-Thoth Tarot, in the transition from cardinal signs to fixed signs, you will find the princes all riding on chariots. Their Sephira is Tiferet, which I previously outlined, and this is the element of air. And this is Melmoline's Prince of Discs. You can see the bull of Taurus here, as well as other symbols linking to the energy of Taurus and the Hierophant. If you are following most other Golden Dawn inspired decks, the same transition from 20 degrees of a cardinal sign through 19 degrees of the subsequent fixed sign, you will be working with the kings, whose Sephira is Hokmah and whose element is fire. And this is generally what I am working with. I chose to contrast these two King of Discs, who represent this energy in very different ways. You can see the abundance, the richness, the lusciousness of Venus in both of these cards. The green colors of Venus. The king is fulfilled. The king is rich. The king could also be quite overwhelmed by the energy of Venus here. And another thing that really strikes me is the beauty of the knitting of tarot. Because here we have a decan ruled by Venus, and we are moving next into the energy of Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. And you're going to find as you go along on your decan walk that as we move from one decan to another, one sign to another, there's this perfect balance and this knitting or weaving of energy connecting everything. And at first, and I suppose still, I find the slow tarot King of Coins quite repulsive. I really don't like to sit in this sort of energy of the King of Coins. I'd much rather work with a card such as this one. But of course, all court cards have their higher frequencies and their lower frequencies, and I think it's important to know this range of energy. In the Journey of the Sacred Bee, you can see here the correspondences. So kings as fire and earth for the symbol of the suit. And so behind all of this confusion, questioning which court cards are air and which court cards are fire, which court cards are the father and which court cards are the son, there is an explanation. And so what I would suggest, if you are new to all of this, is that you choose one particular deck and one particular point of view and work with that for an extended period of time until it really sticks and it makes sense to you. Get to know one system of the tarot really well and then begin to expand your study. Over time, perhaps years of study, this will begin to make sense and you will be able to make space for different interpretations. If you would like further explanation about this, I will likely address this each time we come to the third decan of a cardinal sign. However, this is something that I do talk about and I teach in Tarot Foundations too. And if you are following this decan walk, there still is a discount on this course. Just look below in the description box. And I'm also happy to make a separate video just talking about why we're working with a fiery court card in these two decks and why we're working with an air court card in Crowley Thoth-inspired decks. And for the most part, all of Mel Maline's decks are most heavily inspired by the work of Crowley. In previous episodes, I have offered journal prompts. And I want to take a moment here just to think about what's going on in the Four of Wands. And I think it's really important to think about the Four in terms of its strength, its expansiveness, its qualities of manifestation, because with the stability and the structure of this wonderful Four, the Three is able to see signs of its growth. And together, they support one another. There's a sense of one being really comfortable leaning on the other. And I think about how perfectly the circle created by the compass fits inside the square. And inside the square, it is safe, and that sacred space of the circle is able to bring forth whatever it needs to bring forth. And if you look again at this particular structure here, there is a circle at the base, and from the circle of that feminine shape, it grows in and through and amongst the support of the Four. And because they lean on one another, because they trust one another, because they know that the other is there for the other, it's almost like they get a clearer glimpse of their reason for being, their purpose. And they begin to understand that together indeed they are better, that they can't really thrive without each other. Without Venus, Mars is just bare bones. And without Mars, Venus has no structure, no support upon which to share her gifts and her beauty. And so in this Decan's journal prompt, I invite you to think about the relationship between what is ready to grow and expand in your life and whether or not you have acknowledged the presence of the foundation, the structure that you need to make this really happen. And so in some way, I hope that this gives you deeper understanding of what you may speak to or write about when you are doing a decan walk and you're in this particular decan, or you draw this card in a reading. And so why is this a card of celebration? Well, I think it's quite simple, really. The divine feminine has allowed the gifts of the divine masculine to shine, supported the strengths of the divine masculine. And the divine masculine has created space and support and allowed for the divine feminine to shine in all their brilliance. So thank you. Thanks for being here and taking time to reflect, and let me know what part of this is most meaningful to you. Blessings to you all. Take good care. Namaste.